welcome to Eric's Psychedelic Breakfast.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Eric.
Yeah, welcome, man. Neil, I was wondering, we always like to start the show with what did you have for breakfast today?
Protein shake and
Protein
some
shake.
coffee. Yeah.
Nice. Solid. Honestly, not far from what I had. I also just had some coffee. I skipped the protein shake. But that's always great. So you asked me where I am. I'm in Austin, and I'm so curious. Where are you at that looks so sick outside?
I'm in Boston.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
sick.
little rainy today, but it's supposed to clear up, so fingers crossed.
Nice.
I
Cool,
love
man.
Austin. Good pick.
Yeah, thank you, man. Totally. There's a lot of, well, not too much, but there's some interesting psychedelic research going on over here
hmm
in
Texas.
UT.
Yeah. Texas has some really exciting stuff going on.
Yeah, with psilocybin and um LSD
Ibogaine.
even. Ibogaine, yeah. Yeah, that is so fascinating, man. All of that psychedelic research. Um I kind of wanted to ask you how, well, I guess I'll just do a little intro. Neil is the founder of the and CEO of the Beckley Retreats, which is part of the Beckley Foundation, right?
Not directly a part of the Beckley Foundation, but kind of part of the Beckley family
Right.
of organizations. So it's a separate entity, but yeah.
Right. And you co-led that with Amanda Fielding.
Yes. Rest in peace.
Rest in
God bless
peace.
her. Amazing woman.
Yeah. That's how has that been? Kind of running the show.
I mean, it's been amazing. I have just such admiration and respect for Amanda. I just think she's such a cool human, brilliant, and um, yeah, re really led an extraordinary life. And so, yeah, it's a complete honor to kind of get to continue her legacy in some ways. Um, yeah, and the business is really inspiring too. I mean, I love seeing people come through and getting the feedback and
Mm.
knowing that they're living differently after these experiences. Um, and it's a challenging business. I always say it's like the opposite of a set and forget business. You know, it's very dynamic, which keeps you, you know, focused.
So do you have people come back a lot of the time?
hmm
Do like people like to come back?
Yeah. Yeah, people come back. It's probably like 15% of our guests or something like that right now come back. Um, but
Gotcha.
we're working on having more accessible programs that are shorter and less expensive.
Right.
Because, you know, the program, like I kind of our core program is pretty comprehensive. Um, so we're trying to have some options that are more appropriate for people that have more experience and
Hmm.
easier to get down for. But yeah.
Yeah, I really love that your retreat is it's 6 weeks long, right?
No.
No.
The retreat, the immersion portion is 5 nights. And in
Okay.
that 5 nights, we do two psilocybin sessions. But
Gotcha.
before people come down, we do roughly a month of kind of digital prep that people can
Mm.
do from anywhere in the world. And it's self-directed. So, you know, it's not a huge lift, but we're teaching meditation, mindful movement, breath work,
Hmm.
basic kind of Western psychotherapy practices. And then we do a
Right.
digital follow-up on the back end to try and take advantage of that window of neuroplasticity because we're
Hmm.
really big on behavior change. You know, I think that the mystical experience is really important. And, you know, and many people have an experience and then, you know, do have some positive change in their life. But, well, you know, I think what we've found and is pretty well understood if you don't, properly kind of integrate the experience or work on changing your behaviors, that benefit is going to wane over time. You know, you're going to revert back to the way that you were because there's a lot of like momentum there. There's a lot of, you know, it takes a while to take some effort to kind of change our ways of being.
Right. Right. Yeah. 100%. But it's so interesting to think of psychedelics as a form to hijack that system. And like, would you say that that's possible? Would you say that that's kind of what's going on? Or how do you think psychedelics help in that sense?
Yeah, they open things up. So they do, create these kind of windows of neuroplasticity where there's this increased kind of potentiality for change. And then they just get people's attention. You know, a lot of the things that we try and do in medicine or behavioral health, um, we have issues with compliance. We tell people to do things and then they don't do them because we're humans and it's hard for us to adopt new habits. But there's something pretty unique that happens with these experiences where people really kind of get it. And, I've been teaching meditation for over 10 years now. And I mean, we know from the research that meditation is transformational. It'll like completely change your life. It can change all different dynamics of your life. Um, but it's really hard to get people to do it because it's a bit boring and it's hard to understand the benefits until you've experienced them. And so, just with meditation, for some reason, when people have these mystical consciousness psychedelic experiences, they get it. They know exactly why meditation is important. And it's
Hmm,
not really like a rational thinking exercise. It's kind of an understanding. Um, so, you get people that go and make different decisions, better decisions in their lives.
got you. Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it's like a lot of the times, like it's not that people would want to do psychedelics more than they want to meditate, like I actually wanted to ask you about that, because I really think it's interesting that you prepare people beforehand and you only, get certain people who don't have any predispositions, for that wouldn't be good on psychedelics, um, which I think is great. Um, but how do you handle like do you still do you guys still get like bad trips and stuff like that, like challenging trips?
Yeah. Well, we screen out severe indications. So there's some people that have just a different risk profile related to these experiences. It's people with kind of severe psychiatric conditions because there's already some instability there. And the psychedelic experience sometimes can create more instability in that condition for some period of time. So, you know, people that have kind of severe indications aren't a good fit for our program, mostly because we need to kind of manage for a positive group dynamic. And if you have people that are looking for spiritual enlightenment and personal professional development with someone that is dealing with
Mm.
like severe childhood trauma and things like this, it just makes it, it's a challenging kind of mix. And
Yeah.
so we try and make sure everybody's, on a similar playing field so that we can have a positive experience. But then, yeah, people still do have challenging experiences.
Hmm.
Um, that's quite common, but the vast, vast, vast majority of people would say that that challenging experience was beneficial. And so things kind of came up into their awareness that they were able to then develop a new relationship with or let go or process. Um, so people should be very eyes wide open that it could be a challenging experience. But if they're done properly, they're really quite safe when you compare them to other things that we do in medicine or really in our daily lives. I mean, I would say this is just my kind of opinion and intuition and based on what I've seen. Um, but I think you could make a very clear argument that a controlled psychedelic experience with the right facilitation and kind of prep and integration and environment is much safer than going out to a bar on Friday night with your friends.
Hmm.
So it's all kind of relative comparison. Um, And then some people have, you know, a lot of people have blissful experiences, so they really enjoy it. It's mostly beauty and connectedness, but it is not uncommon for people to have a bit of a rough ride. But you know, oftentimes they see a lot of value in that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting how people drink alcohol so much. You know, like I think I heard you on another podcast talk about how important integration is and how you have to give people like that space, like 6 days, at least or something, to before you go back into the your daily routine again. So I think it's interesting how do you separate kind of like a more of a daily use, something like more of a substitute for a routine and a routine,
Mhm. Yeah.
versus bigger dosages or and more controlled experiences, you know? Um, yeah, because it's that coming back that's that's so interesting. I think I heard you also call it mindful living, like there's a way to kind of be in between the super heavy dose and the maybe like microdosing.
Um, yeah, I think we're talking about a couple different things here. We can talk about microdosing and kind of fuller dose. That's one thing. And then
Right.
the outcomes for each can be,
Hmm.
you know, a more mindful way of being or more connected way of being, better relationships, better perceptions of yourself, increased you know, feelings of well-being, more in sync. You know, and for people that have never lived that way, it's hard to even, you know, really rationalize it. But you know, I was there. You know, many of us
Right.
have a very active mind, and we are constantly in our head telling stories, judging, making sense of, referencing, thinking. And that can become kind of the dominant state. And that is actually a really important state. I mean, this is what allows us to kind of like work and plan and do all these really important things. But that mode of mind can also get in the way of experiencing and
Hmm.
feeling and connecting. And when I first kind of got into meditation, it was really, you know, you at the beginning kind of like you just try and bring your awareness into the now and you know pay attention to
Yes.
your breath and into experience, and then you know try and a lot of techniques will use some form of counting or mantra or something like this, and then the mind runs away, and then you come back, and you know I couldn't keep my mind in one place for 2 seconds. It was bing, 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 and that's I think that's actually really common, you
Right.
know, and it takes if you've lived a long time in that mode, it takes some time to kind of you know wind out of that mode, especially if you have
Right.
some trauma or something that is putting your central nervous system into this more sympathetic dominant kind of fight or flight state where your body is just literally looking for risk, you know, so it's frantically calculating how to keep you safe, which again is good, but you don't
Right.
want to be there all the time because it's a bit too much.
Right. Yeah, you want to, but you also want to make sure you remember your social security number.
Yeah, anyway, that's right. Yeah, and I don't think that there's a real risk with the use of you know, psychedelics for that. Well, maybe I should slice that a little bit. Um, Mushrooms look
Mm.
to be neuroregenerative,
Thank you.
so they look to improve brain health. Now, again, there's risks, but if you look at like what's happening in an fMRI when people are on the use of psilocybin, it's allowing the brain to connect more fully and parts of the brain that haven't connected before, you know, have lost connection, like the kind of those channels open back up. So
Yeah,
I think you can make a very good argument that psilocybin is good for the brain, good for memory, good for learning, which is a bit different than cannabis. Now, cannabis has a lot of benefit
mm,
too, but the particularly on developing
Right.
brains, cannabis looks like it might have some negative effects. And the well, I'll just pause there and see where you want to go.
Well, the first thing that I thought of was, is that only with psilocybin, or does that also happen with LSD?
No, it looks like LSD, can improve connectivity in the brain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe the professionals call it temporary synesthesia,
Hmm.
which is so sick. And kind of makes sense to that it would help reset by seeing things from a different perspective, seeing sounds from a different perspective, maybe opening that window a little bit more
Hmm.
from perspective. Um, but yeah, that is interesting. And I think cannabis, I think, is also very similar. A lot of people like to get stoned and will like listen to music, and it will also kind of expand a little bit of the sensory experience. Um, or if you have a really big edible, you will you will see hell, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Cannabis has a lot of potential benefit for sure. Um, and I think the pendulum swung a bit far in the United States to where it was devil's weed, no medical application, you'll go crazy, to now it's in corner shops, there's no education in it. The people, it's just like people are kind of assuming that there's no risk, and that's not true either. It's kind of in the, it's more in the middle. Um, and
Right.
I'm a big believer in kind of like adult responsible use, because I think that you can use marijuana just how many people unfortunately use alcohol, which is to kind of tune out or numb,
Right.
or you can use it intentionally as a way to kind of enhance meditation or nature connectedness or kind of
Hmm.
presence practice. And I think it's really helpful for that. But there's definitely different ways for it to be used.
And I agree that there's definitely a taboo for weed. Like if you don't smoke or you stop smoking because you think it is affecting you differently. Like I don't think it's as normal to be like, oh hey, I'm gonna quit smoking weed versus saying like, hey, I'm gonna stop drinking like a cup of coffee because it's giving me like a lot of anxiety in the mornings.
Right,
Like
right.
people would be like, oh yeah, I don't even drink coffee. But with
Hmm.
weed, it's like, oh, why you don't smoke? That's not cool.
Right.
Or stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's interesting and dangerous for sure. And yeah. Um, and talking about the synesthesia, um, I mean, having your retreats in Jamaica and Netherlands, that must be, I mean, just geologically must affect the trip, you know, especially the mushrooms. How do you guys get the mushrooms?
Well, in Jamaica and Netherlands,
Right,
for our programs, the way we do them, which is non-medical, we're not diagnosing or treating anything. It's explicitly for adult use for personal professional development.
right.
It's legal. So there's many growers and providers, and we have
Mm,
some favorites that we work with, and they test the substances, we test them. And so it's easy to do well and controlled. You do need to ask more questions if you're doing things in kind of a gray market, which is most of the rest of the world. Um, but we really like
right.
doing programs in places where everything's fully above board. Then we can get insurance and like all the things that you would expect from kind of a normal services type company.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then, yeah, environment matters a lot. So all the psychedelic experiences that kind of by definition are contextual. So it's very different than,
Mm,
kind of all the other drugs in some way. Um, in Western
right.
medicine, you take your pill in the morning and you don't need to do anything. You just kind of go on about your day and it goes in there and it's doing its thing. And, we have research to show that there is some benefit for many medicines for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
psychedelics, they have some, they're affecting this consciousness layer, this awareness layer, and it's different. And some of the, the psychonauts, the Tim Learys and the some of the
The
more
Ram Dass.
the pioneers would say things like the psychedelic is less than half of the experience. The bigger part is where you are, who you're with, why you're doing it, what you did leading up to it, what you're going to do after it. It's
Mm,
everything around it. And so I think we
totally.
do that really well. And for some reason that we have not, I don't know if we'll ever be able to really understand the mechanics of um, psychedelic experiences in a natural environment where you're kind of away
Mm,
are different. They're different than a doctor's office. Not good or bad.
right,
And some people, I think, are more, kind of a clinic environment might be more appropriate for them. But when you do it kind of
right.
close to nature, the experience it can be very different.
Hmm. Man, that's so fascinating, especially with with VR, you know? Like,
Yep. And there's people that are doing VR stuff with psychedelics now. I mean, the world it's
yeah.
on, it's really fascinating.
You have meditation apps in VR.
Yeah. Yep.
That's wild.
It is
Um,
wild. Yeah,
yeah.
and I kind of wrote some of that stuff off, honestly. I was more of a purist. I mean, same kind of I used to teach meditation in person, and then, kind of COVID happened and you couldn't do in person anymore. And I was like, there's no way you can do this remotely. You can't connect with people. And then would I rather be in person? 100%. But do I think that you can actually do it effectively? Um, Remotely, yes. And in some
Hmm.
ways, for some people, it's probably better because they can be in their own environment. They can
Hmm.
kind of, so I don't know. I'm open. I'm trying, challenge myself and be open-minded. And, I think I would rather get people in nature for sure, but
Yeah.
if they can connect through a VR headset and they're getting benefit out of it and that's more accessible, and
Hmm.
then I'm supportive of that too,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah, I think like what you were saying about the meditation, how it's coming back down to that um focal point, whether it's the breath or the body. I think um with with psychedelic experiences, it reminds me of kind of the book Psychedelic Experience, where they use the model of the Tibetan Book of the Dead to kind of have bardos and say that when you have a psychedelic experience, you kind of go through the bardos, and their goal is to stay in that first bardo, which I think they accomplish by like really focusing down on that one point and kind of like canceling out the other bardos, which are the hallucinations and the visual trips and stuff like that. Um, so I think that's really interesting, man. Do you guys have any kind of like model or how do you guys meditate? Do you guys, you know?
Yeah, we introduced a couple different techniques. I mean, there's so many. Um, my kind of official trainings in MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, which was developed by a doctor, John Kabat-Zinn at the University of Massachusetts.
Mm,
And he studied in the East under Buddhist practitioners, like in the 70s, and was like, oh, wow, this is super transformational. I want to bring it back into medicine, but I can't bring kind of all of the Buddhist ties because, in the 70s, we just weren't there yet. And some people, hate him for that. But I think that it was actually brilliant because it just makes it, he kind of stripped out some of the things and just got it down to its core essence, which is just practicing paying attention to the now. He would
mm,
say meditation is paying attention to the present moment on purpose without judgment. That's it. And
yeah.
then the techniques are, I mean, you described it. It's just pay attention to something in the now. Usually it's kind of direct experience, sensations in the body or breath. Mind runs away. You notice the mind has run away and you come back, and that's it. And that's the lifting of the weight. That's the repetition.
Mm,
You do that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And then you can sit in that nowness more often. And again, we don't understand like all the mechanics of what's going on. I mean, the body is just like beyond. comprehension, and the systems, the way they interact. But something very significant happens when you spend more time in that now. And many different like spiritual traditions kind of have been pointing at this. And so, um, yeah, it's a really profound practice. And, I mean, to each their own too. Um, I think that, everyone's so different in some ways. But I think for me, in some ways, meditation's kind of in a bucket by itself. It's not part of all these different well-being practices. It's kind of the foundation.
Yeah.
And then there's all this acting and doing and stuff and thinking. But like meditation is kind of the act of not doing. So it's the one thing that is outside of that other set. And sometimes I feel like it gets a little lost because it gets just thrown in with a bunch of other
Hmm.
stuff. But I would make the argument that it's like it's unique.
100% right. Like I think kind of the idea is that meditation, what it does is it kind of just it's a way to break away from those habitual patterns, I think, and um just in a in the present moment where you're caught in between two eternities. um I think meditation is kind of like the like a break from that, you it's like it's just yeah, like you're saying, it's the one thing that goes like opposed to everything. So like saying that it's like foundational is also kind of like weird because it's kind of like the opposite as well because like if you get so- yeah, I just haven't thought about that in a while. But yeah, it's so fascinating. It's always there. It's always there.
Yeah.
I love how the Buddhists describe um the lotus flower and the Buddha coming out of silence. Out of
Mhm.
you can only like create the environment, and usually the environment is quietness for the flower in Buddha to bloom. Because there's
Yes.
like all these flowers and stuff, but
Yeah.
the Buddha's not necessarily there.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's real truth in that. And I think we're learning more about kind of the mechanics around that.
Right.
But if you think about experiencing kind of emotion, how we feel, I love that there's a public speaking technique, which if you're going to tell a story in front of a bunch of people and you're going to get really emotional because it's something like very personal to you, you can do math in your mind. 2 + 2 is 4, 4 + 4 is 8, 8 + 8 is
Hmm.
16. Cuts the emotion off. Cuts the emotion off. So we're doing that without our own awareness many times where we're
Right.
calculating it's this versus that, it's good, bad, like right. And so we're that experience, that feeling that's coming up and through, we're blocking that in some ways, and then so that's kind of at the body level, but then at the awareness level, um, many, many, like the kind of visionary people and inventors and have found out that there's this kind of um, state of being that allows the insights to come up and through. So if you kind of go back through history, you look at kind of like some of the cool inventors and stuff and like when they came to their insights,
Hmm.
a lot of times it wasn't when they were like cranking away at it and like trying to solve. It was when they stopped and allowed
Hmm.
it to come up and through. And I think this is the creative genius. And that is part of us and it's coming up and through us. But if we're always in that other state, then that kind of it's blocked in some ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's so interesting how we can forget that like every single action that we take like truly does affect the universe. Like and we know that fundamentally, but yet we still do things that like create suffering and we don't do the things that we know that would help, the world, you know? Like thinking
Yeah.
like, oh, that's not going to change anything, but like it changes so much.
Yeah, I mean, we like casually sit here all the time. And the reality is we're spinning on this rock at like 1,000 miles an hour. We're rotating around this big, huge, like unbelievable ball of fire, and then that's spinning around, the galaxy, and there's multiple galaxies, and if you add it all up, it looks like we're approaching traveling at the speed of light. And it's like, okay, well then what? It's just it's so far beyond our ability to kind of like rationalize, and then we take it for granted. We don't appreciate it, the magic and the kind of the
Right.
extraordinary reality of just like being. We could go on our lives and get in arguments, and we do that all the time. It's so human.
Right. We label things as this is not fundamental. This is not important. This is not going to affect every single other being on this universe. But this action is, like we still like we're biased, I feel like to a lot of the our actions and even to ourselves sometimes as well. Um but yeah, I think that yeah, that by just sitting down and doing nothing, I think if more people did that, we would definitely be in a more peaceful world.
Yeah. Yeah, what's that saying? There's a really good one that I love. It's something like the world doesn't need more successful people. The world needs more, connected, kind.
Yeah. How did you become a meditation teacher?
So I was studying math in my undergrad, and then September 11th happened, and I joined the officer program trying to do the right thing. I thought I was helping, and then went in as a lieutenant, Iraq once, Afghanistan twice. And I got out and went to grad school in 2012, and went to Columbia University. And so, by some measures was doing okay professionally. I was showing up, good school, good job offers and things like this. But I was struggling, like no question. I was isolating, I was angry, I was not connected. And I met this guy who was doing his PhD at Columbia, Home Nguyen, and he took me under his wing a little bit and started teaching me meditation, and kind of I just knew that I needed it, kind of like I didn't know
Yeah.
exactly what to make of it at the beginning, but I was just like, okay, this, like, my intuition was so strong. It was like, you need to sit and you need to like be still. Um, and then I got quite into meditation over those years, kind of like 2012 to 2015. Um, And then I did a teacher certification at Jefferson University in mindfulness-based stress reduction. And so then I
Hmm.
was teaching it for a while. And I still teach it from time to time. I love it. I think it's really important. And I love teaching it to people that are like, like I was, which is, super in their minds all the time, and maybe don't want the spiritual component, but just want to kind of like feel better. Because yeah, I think there's certain language and ways of like describing what's going on that resonate with people that are there. Because I was
Hmm.
there.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And I also think there's something to be said for the naturalness of wanting to quiet down your life, just sleeping and just wanting to sit in silence sometimes. I feel like there's enlightened, awakened people all over the world, but like even here in America, that's always interesting. I've always had the dream to go to India and go to the Himalayan mountains, find the guru and touch his feet and stuff. But and then you think about you think about doing that here in America and it's like no way. But like for some reason you think that by changing your location that's gonna happen. But I think you can find that here in America, anywhere,
It's
wherever you are.
everywhere. It's everywhere. Yep, it's everywhere.
Yeah. Um, well, Neil, thank you so much
Yeah,
for
man.
for
Thank
joining
you.
us, man. Um, if there's any people who want to find you, how can people find you?
You can go to the Beckley Retreats website. It's just Beckley Retreats. If you Google that, will come up. And we do monthly calls that I lead,
Oh, sick.
and then we do one-on-one calls. I mean, we're a small company that cares, so you can always get a human, believe it or not. We'll like respond to messages and not give you an AI bot. So yeah, we're easy to get in touch with. Just reach out.
That's important nowadays. Man, if you don't mind, is there any chance you could give the listeners maybe some kind of meditation to do, maybe when they're in their next guided experience or something, just a simple meditation that you recommend for people?
Yeah, I mean, you can just focus on the awareness of the breath or some sensation in the body. Just kind of like pause and be like, where do I feel something? And then try and sit there, try and stay in that and just see how long you can kind of like be in that awareness. But know that the mind will run around because this is like what the mind does. But be curious about that because it's interesting because it's you kind of, but it's not, right? So it's like just like start being curious about this mind self thing. And then you'll just have a second where you're like, oh, crap, I was supposed to be kind of on my breath or the awareness in my body. And in that moment, in that like instant sliver of a second, you're in back in the now instead of kind of being somewhere else.
Hmm.
And that's it. You just keep doing that. And don't get mad because the mind's running around. You just come back. You don't judge it. You don't think anything about it. You just keep doing that over and over again. And then that's the lifting of the weights. That's the how you get stronger.
Yeah,
And it, and I would,
go ahead, go
sorry,
ahead.
good.
No, you can go.
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that if people wanna, I think everyone at some point in their life should really kind of try meditation, but once is not enough because it's just like exercise. You got to string together, you know, consistent days and consistent weeks. It looks like some of the brain changes start to show up around the 2 month mark. So I think that's a good waypoint. I would pay
Wow.
and do a formal meditation course with an instructor. You can do them digitally or in person. They're all over the place. I'm a big fan of MBSR, but there's lots of good ones out there. And I feel like if you make the commitment, and you be like, write the check, then you're locked in. Because if you just try it a couple times,
Right.
you have no idea what the benefit is. And so then you need to kind of give it enough time and consistent practice to be able to see if there's benefit. And then at the end of that time, you can make an informed decision whether it's worth your time or not. I would say that most people will find that it is, but you have no idea unless you like really kind of give it
Right.
it's the right amount.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's a lot for people in America. I think it's so much, being quiet and all that just feels like so long, you know.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Peop
Yeah, it does. Um, it's true.
but it's worth it, man. It's hard. Do you meditate daily? Do you have a daily practice?
Yeah, for sure.
How long do you meditate,
I usually
man?
do like well, this is always I always, I wonder sometimes I'm like, should I even answer this? Because I don't
Yeah.
this has been over time, but I probably meditate like an hour and a half a day, but it's in
Whoa.
different chunks. I'll do
Oh,
like
nice.
20 minutes before, like I wake up and I'll just stay in bed and I just like feel my body for 20 minutes. And then I get up, I move around a bit, I like go exercise or something, and I come back and I'll probably do like 20 to 30 minutes, but like sit.
Hmm.
And then throughout the day, I block my calendar and I'll do like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I mean, I'll do it if I'm riding in an Uber, and then
Hmm.
I always do it like before I go to bed because for me, everyone's different, but like people that are in their head a lot and thinking a lot, it's harder, but they have more to gain, and that's me, So I need a
Hmm.
lot more to kind of stay in this center
Hmm.
than some people who are probably just wired differently and it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just wanted to say that with the dosing with psychedelics, would you say that like people who have come to the experiences before and have taken psychedelics before, they don't need as much to tap into that field versus new guys who have never taken it. They need a little bit more to believe it, you know?
It just depends. It's so it
Yeah,
I don't know, you know. I mean,
yeah,
you'll have it can go kind of the extreme either way. Someone no experience, light dose, huge huge experience.
really.
You can go the other way, lots of previous experience, big dose, not much for them. It's so we're so
Right.
complex, you know.
Yeah.
And again, the environment and all that stuff matters, and your kind of like state of being in and around the time is a huge input to it too. So they used to think and I'm glad they did this because my intuition always thought this was wrong, but it was kind of like similar with medicine. It was like body weight, bigger people need bigger doses. They've debunked that. That's not true at all.
Mm.
No correlation between kind of size of individual. And so yeah, it's complex, but there does see to, you know, there are like the kind of ranges. There's like sweet spots kind of for people. Um,
Yeah.
but there's definitely some art to it, you know. And I mean, there's art to medicine too. I mean, you think that the dosing on some of these medicines is like a hard science. Well, kinda, you know, it's kind of trial and error because there's
Right.
no way to, and maybe there will be in the future. It's actually really kind of cool, some of the stuff that's happening with artificial intelligence and, you know, tailored medicine and things like this. But, you know, right now, you know, it's trial and error. You know, you're kind
Yeah.
of, you know, a predefined kind of a general range, and you're trying to find what fits for people within that range.
Have you messed around at all with doing night trips
Hmm.
or or maybe also internal trips, like instead of outdoors?
Hmm.
And how is that? Do you prefer
I
like
prefer outdoors, yeah, for
daytime
sure.
outdoors?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just what's my preference? I prefer
Sorry.
probably afternoon into sunset
Yeah.
because
Nice.
but a lot of traditions, you know, you start in the evening and you kind of go into the night, which is kind of cool too because there's something, you know, there's a lot of stillness at night.
Hmm.
And so there's probably value in that too. But
Right.
I'm thinking about it more from like an integrative health perspective. And we know that psilocybin will disrupt your sleep.
Hmm.
And so, you know, I feel like we can give people just as transformative of an experience kind of earlier in the day, and then they can get a decent night's sleep and they're not so kind of out of sorts. But
Yeah.
that's just my take on it. There's
Yeah.
plenty of other ways of thinking about it.
No, that's a great point, a great idea. But yeah, thank you so much, Neil. I
Yeah,
really
thanks,
appreciate your
buddy.
time and everything. So
Yeah.
nice to meet you. Hopefully we can get
Nice
you
to
back
meet you.
here again sometime, man.
Cool, brother.
And all those links to find Neil will be in the description. All right.
Have a good one, man.
You
Take
too.
care.
Hare
See ya.
Krishna. Oh, let me just stop here.